Hello and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to share with you ARK's 10 worst tames. But just before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe as it really does help out the channel. In at number 10 is the Achatina. Now, for many people, this would be a useful creature, but in my case, I have absolutely no use for this creature at all. It's just a bit of a pain to tame. It is quite expensive to tame. And for me, for my necessary cementing paste, I will just go to things like beaver dams. And if I want organic polymer, I will just go over to Raasclark and kill something like the mantis. But if Achatina paste is important to you, then I guess they could have a use there. But for me, these creatures really do not have any use at all. In at number 9 is the Archeopteryx. Again, to many other players, this creature may have a significant use, mainly in a PvP scenario though. But the thing is, these things are insanely annoying to tame and very difficult to tame as well. But if you would be taming one, tame one on Raasclark, as taming one of these things on the island really is not worth the time and effort it will take. These things are a passive tame requiring you to feed them spoiled meat, and then you'll probably need a ghillie suit as well so they don't notice you, and bug repellent on top of that. And all of that really does stack up over time, as those are expensive resources to obtain. But in a PvP scenario, these things are definitely a must, as they can destroy any kind of structures, tech structures, thatch structures, wood, you name any structure, this thing can destroy it. Which is actually really good considering this thing's size. It is a very small creature, so it is relatively easy to inconspicuously go and destroy the side of someone's base and quickly get a raid in. In at number 8 is the Compy. This creature, in my opinion, no one should have a use for. This creature is borderline completely useless and will only eat prime meat, and I think kibble as well to tame, but you cannot feed this thing raw meat. Also, the Compy's torpor drains faster than a giga. This thing's torpor drain is insane, so you'll be spending a lot of narcotics trying to tame one of these things, and again, they have no use, their health isn't great, their damage isn't great. Do not tame one of these things. In at number 7 is the Beelzebufo. These are frogs, if you didn't know. A lot of people do call them frogs as well. But in terms of their use, again, to some players, these are very valuable creatures, as they are great at gathering cementing paste from killing insects. But again, in my opinion, I really do not see a use in this, as beaver dams are by far the go-to place for getting cementing paste. These things just don't gather cementing paste in a timely fashion compared to gathering a beaver dam, where you can easily get upwards of 200, maybe even 500 cementing paste just from raiding one beaver dam. And on top of that, you're going to be getting rare mushrooms, rare flowers, wood, and even silica pearls sometimes, which are really valuable resources. And when you're farming with one of these things, you are only getting the cementing paste from insects, and it takes significantly longer than raiding beaver dams. In terms of a water creature though, some people may use them for that, as they actually aren't too bad at swimming, but in the early game I would rather use something like a Carbenemes, as they're just easier to tame, as these things spawn in the swamp. Or if I am actually committing to go to the swamp, I will just get myself a Baryonyx, as they are much more worth it. In at number 6 is the Chalic. These things definitely do have a use to some players. I don't know why I keep saying that, but in terms of how I think about this thing, I have pretty much never used this creature, and when I have tamed one, I never actually find a real use for it, as there are just other creatures that just do a better job. But I was actually reasonably surprised about how much knockback this creature gives, so I guess that is a bonus. But overall, these things have a very expensive taming method, and they're also a bit of a weird tame as well. The way how you tame one of these things is you have to go and get a beer barrel, and then you have to make beer. I can't remember quite how you make that. I think it's like berries and thatch in a beer barrel. Either way, it takes a lot of time and it actually is reasonably expensive when you add all of it up, and then you'll go behind it and just passive feed it beer, I think, because you're not going to be knocking this thing out. Yes, passive feed this thing beer, and then you'll have yourself one of these things. I think they throw poop as well, but when I was testing this thing for taming, I managed to throw some rocks with them, which definitely could be useful and I could see a use in it. But just in my case, I don't have a use for the Chalic Ethereum at all in terms of harvesting and gathering. There are just better creatures out there for me than this. In at number 5 is the Amargasaurus. Now you probably know already why this creature is on the list. Its taming method is so annoying. It even took Raasclark 24 whole hours for him to tame one of these things. And in my opinion, they're not even really worth it anyway, as everything the Amarga can do, a Bronto or something like a Stego will do better. And in terms of damage, you can just get something like a Rex, a Giga or a Carcharodontosaurus to do that bit for you, and it is going to do a much better job than this creature, and it will not literally give you nightmares from taming this thing, as this thing is almost the hardest tame in the game. I would argue the Ephemerate is a lot harder, but still, don't even bother with one of these. In at number 4 is the Angler. Again, you may have not heard of this creature, and actually for me, I only really gave this creature thought when I was watching Squid's ARK video from way back when he tamed himself an Angler. But after that video came out, I have not given the Angler any thought at all, and really, these things don't need to be in the game, and they probably won't even make it into the game of ARK 2, as a Megalodon will do better, a Baryonyx will do better, an Ichthyosaurus will do better, a Mosa will do better, a Plesio will do better. There just isn't a use for these things. A small agile creature in the ocean that can deal damage, you can just use a Barry for that. If you just need an agile creature, use the Ichthyosaurus, and if you want even more damage, use a Mosa, a Plesio or a Megalodon. It is as simple as that. You do not need the Angler or the Manta for that matter in any instance in the ocean. I really do not find them useful. They could be alright for pearl gathering, but there are just much better creatures out there. In at number 3 is the Archeopteryx. Now, these things overall do get a pretty bad rep, and I'm going to give them a bad rep in this video, as these are one of the most useless creatures in ARK by far. There is absolutely no use for these things in the game at all after the glide suit came out in Arboration. There just simply is not a point, as when you glide with these things, yes, they're going to glide effectively. You will have a positive 5-star gliding experience, but when you land, that's going to turn more into a 1-star experience, as you will not be able to wield weapons, and you'll be slowed down because you'll be carrying this creature around. Whereas the glide suit, yes, you'll be losing a bit of armor, but you can still walk at normal speed and get on with your day-to-day ARK tasks without being concerned about your glider. In at number 2 is the Irenaio. The Irenaio really could be an outstanding ARK creature, if it wasn't that this thing is absolutely rubbish and has no use. But if this thing did get a TLC in future, I could see how this would be a really great PvE and PvP ARK creature. If this had the ability to climb walls and shoot webs like the Bloodstalker to get around the map, then this thing would actually be a good tame. But in terms of taming spiders, just tame a Bloodstalker. These things are not worth it at all. They have 2 attacks, their web attack, their normal attack, and that is pretty much it. They barely even move quickly, their stamina is rubbish, their health is awful, and their taming method is just really annoying. But before we get into number 1, I want to quickly tell you that we have a channel membership here, and you could really help out the channel by subscribing. It is $4.99 a month. You will get access to member exclusive videos, early access to videos, you will get your own shoutouts, you will get your own live chats, and also an extreme priority reply to comments. So if that all sounds good to you, then why not consider becoming a channel member? Your channel will be displayed on the front channel page as well. So why not give it a go and see how you like it, and if you don't like it, you can always cancel later. And without further ado, let's get into number 1. And in at number 1 is the Celie Kanth. Obviously, this would make it on the list for just the worst ARK creature, as the Celie Kanth has no use at all as a creature. It has no abilities, it can't attack, its health is pretty rubbish, and I don't even know why you could tame one of these things. And in this list, you could put any of the fish in ARK, such as piranhas and the saber-toothed salmon on top of that list as well. These really do not have a use at all. But anyway, that is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you consider becoming a channel member, as it will really help us out. Comment your top 10 worst ARK creatures in the comments down below, and I will see you all later. Bye.